capture it. Just listen, man. I'll speak very clearly and with delicate language, as the president has asked us to behave in that manner. So, Mr. President, I just want to bring the Senate and the nation up to date as to some of the happenings in the marketplace, because we've had a number of issues and events since we last met. Clearly, we had Beryl, and that has been, the effect continues to percolate through the economy in the country. And the 20 agencies in my ministry have been working at different places to see how the micro, small, medium-sized enterprises and big businesses have been behaving and helping to get us back to normal. Mr. President, on July 2nd, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce issued an order to support fair sale of goods to protect Jamaican citizens from unwarranted price increases of in-demand items after the passage of Hurricane Beryl, which happened on July 3rd this year. Since then, the Consumer Affairs Commission, an agency of this ministry, has been active in the field gathering information to ensure that there is fair pricing. And they're active in the field checking against numbers that we would have had from April and May, so we know what were the prices in the trade. Mr. President, the Consumer Affairs Commission has reported that between August and September 2024, that there was a noticeable easing of price increases compared to the sharp spikes seen in the previous months. While West Indian red pepper still saw a significant 62% price increase, and local thyme followed with a 33% rise, overall price movement showed a slight decline. Clearly, Mr. President, I'm very familiar with the production of thyme from St. Elizabeth and pepper, and I can assure you that on the 4th of July, one day after the hurricane, I was in Manchester, in St. Elizabeth, went on to Westmoreland and Hanover to see what had happened. And yes, the farms were denuded, really, in some cases decimated by the passage of Beryl, not to mention, of course, houses and everything else. So those sharp spike in the prices for thyme and pepper and so on were real and a result of the hurricane. Of the 53 local and imported agricultural products surveyed, in other words, a good range of products were surveyed, 16 items, 30% of that 53, recorded price declines ranging from 1% to 11%, indicating some stabilization in market conditions. So while we hear about price rises, we tend not to hear a lot about the reduction in prices. So I'd like to report that here that some prices have actually gone down. 3 agricultural items, that 6%, remained relatively constant. 34 product items, that 64%, still experienced increases, but were less severe, ranging from 1% to as high, as I said before, 62% for pepper, as I mentioned earlier. The CAC will continue to monitor the prices of goods to ensure that there is fair pricing for all Jamaicans. And I've made it very clear in a post-cabinet press briefing last week that everyone knows across Jamaica that I support the business community from micro to large businesses, a very strong advocate, strong supporter of them growing to export overseas. But my remit as minister has a spectrum from looking after the lowliest consumer to the biggest business in the industry portfolio. And part of making sure that the lowliest of our consumers are protected is to ensure that big businesses who might have commercial buying power and other powers play by the rules. And we've said, please, we encourage you to play by the rules. And just in case you decide not to play by the rules, the government and through this ministry will take the full course of the law against you. So we do not want to do that, but we will do it if you do not play by the rules. I turn to cement, Mr. President. Jamaica's cement supply challenges and our minister's response. Mr. President, Jamaica currently has a booming economy, and this has led to increased construction activity, such as infrastructure projects, housing, and commercial developments, driving up demand for cement. Then, of course, Mr. President, we had Beryl. And when I went to St. Elizabeth, as I mentioned earlier, in Manchester and elsewhere, I went back to visit, you know. Since you don't have me up here at work, we have to go back from time to time. Mr. President, when I went back, I went to Yardley Chase, which is just by Lover's Leap, which is sort of where, if Beryl were to have come on land, it was the nearest place it did. I looked at roofs that had just taken off. Clearly, a lot of work had to be done. Walls were down, and cement, therefore, came in demand. I realized that just before Beryl arrived, the cement company was going on its annual furlough to fix its plant and had imported an additional 25,000 tons for the normal market. Well, Beryl just ate that up quite quickly. Cement is one of the factors of production that many economists use as a key indicator of economic performance. By that measure, Mr. President, I can clearly report that the economy is doing well because demand is really quite high for cement, and work is going on, and we're making sure that the cement in the marketplace is available. So what are we doing? A detailed market analysis conducted by the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, and for the record, Jamaica's Business Ministry, between January and August 2024, revealed a decline in cement production, averaging an 8% drop per month. Total domestic sale during this period amounted to 741,052 metric tons, while total production during the same period was 624,701 metric tons, which fell below the demand in the domestic market. Mr. President, we need to be aware that the Caribbean Cement Company Limited had a scheduled maintenance which occurred between August 12th to September 3rd, which significantly affected the supply of cement in the market. And this is annual. Carib Cement was able to use import quota issued by the ministry. As I said, they imported 25,000 tons, but that was eaten up. What I found, Mr. President, as I looked around, is not only does a cement company has an annual quota that the ministry gives them because they have downtime and sometimes something might happen in the plant and they use that to import. But we give other importers who are not producers of cement import quotas. And what I've found, Mr. President, just even on my way here, I was checking because I keep checking the market, and importers who were given quotas did not use up their quotas. And so while you hear of a shortage in the market and some people are calling for the government to give more quotas and so on, we have the resources in the ministry and we check, and I'm making it clear to importers, and this is coming from Parliament, that when you come back to me, as you always do, you have to because we have to give it, and we always check, we're not going to be able to extend or give you additional quotas if you have substantial unused quotas for months that was not done. So we want to make sure, the whole idea of quota is to make sure there is a balance in the marketplace. There's no huge fluctuation. Well, if we give you a quota, and you hold on to the quota, and now you say, oh, you allow people to say there's shortage in the market, there's no shortage of quota. So if you don't use your quota, you know what it is. You don't use it, you might lose it. No, that's not, they might hurry up and import. The point is, use your quota that the government has given you to make sure the supply of cement is evenly managed in the marketplace. So we want to make sure we're carrying that in the response. Of course, Carib Cement has ensured that there is adequate cement supply in the market. So I spoke to them yesterday and this morning, and I keep talking to them. So we're trying to make sure that cement, which is a major factor of production in our economy, is available in the market, not just quotas being available, but cement imported, if necessary, by quotas to keep the market even, supply in the market even. Mr. President, foreign direct investment. When I went to the ministry in... Madam President, isn't this a wonderful development, my fellow colleagues in the Senate? A wonderful development. You know, Madam President, Madam President, you know that my strong political affiliation is to a gentleman called Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. Now that we've settled that, Senator Brown, I can now tell you about foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment, Madam President. The work of JAMPRO in promoting and facilitating FDI and LDI is well known. LDI, of course, funny enough, we're so used to FDI, foreign direct investment. I want you to get also used to local direct investment, because local people has been investing a lot in this economy. When we attract capital from international investors, FDI enhances Jamaica's productive capacity and stimulates innovation across various business sectors. It also provides funding for infrastructure development. So listen to what has happened between 22 and 23 in terms of foreign direct investment, Madam President. The worldwide foreign direct investment fell by 2% in 2023 versus 2022. It fell from $1.35 trillion US dollars to $1.33 trillion US dollars. But there was other decline. FDI flows to developing countries fell from $930 billion US dollars in 2022 to $867 billion in 2023, a 7% decline. FDI flows to Africa, Madam President, fell by 3% from $54 billion US dollars in 2022 to $53 billion US dollars in 2023. And FDI flows in Latin America and the Caribbean region fell by 1% from $196 billion in 2022 to $193 billion in 2023. But when I went to the ministry in 2022, one of the first things I looked at was FDI flows into Jamaica. For the 4 or 5 years before that I looked at, the trajectory was down. We kept falling. Well, Madam President, in 2023, Jamaica's FDI inflows rose by 35%, from $319 million US dollars to $431 million US dollars, when everything around us, worldwide, regional, and everything else was falling. Jamaica's FDI grew by 35% last year over the previous year. But, so what happened? My friends in my seat? You can't hear now? You can join us as well. Madam President, as we continue to navigate rapidly evolving global economy, The significance of local direct investment, and this has not been the case. Very often, over the decades, we have heard when Jamaicans make money, they take it out of the country. Well, listen to this. As we continue to navigate this rapidly evolving global economy, the significance of local direct investment has a crucial role to play in the development of our economy. Several local companies have invested in technology and operations which show their commitment to enhancing capacity, productivity, and competitiveness. Wisynco, Madam President, invested 11.63 billion Jamaican dollars in an expansion project in the last 2 years that focused on increasing its productive capacity. Chairman, 2 years ago, when he was about to do it, I met him at an event, the British High Commission, and he said, look, we are looking at the economy as a place that we want to invest money. And yes, they went ahead and put in $11.63 billion. They expanded their plants. I have taken trade missions overseas. Their vice president of exports was always with us, and they're expanding their market. The bottom line, I looked at the Observer, I think, about 2 weeks ago, and in there were all these companies that have expanded and are increasing their investment. Wisynco was top, William Food was there, and they said, we're doing this to increase our export. Makes sense. With 3 million people, and they're growing so fast, and they have the money to invest, naturally, they're investing to export overseas. It warms my heart, because export is how we're going to have to grow if we have only 3 million people. This includes the implementation of advanced manufacturing technologies for Wisynco to boost efficiency and meet growing local market demand. And the company said that exports are to take center stage of this investment policy. Fosridge, Jamaican Electrical and Lighting Company, has expanded into U.S. market, supplying infrastructural products for minority business enterprises, MBEs, projects across several states. They have also obtained Jamaican $900 million in financing to commence operations in Guyana, specifically targeting the expansion of its services in PVC manufacturing, transformer repairs, and the solar sector. Clearly, Fosridge has a good sense that if Guyana is growing at a rate of between 25 and 50% annually, and has a small population of 780, which is going to grow extremely fast, grown by people who are wealthy, doctors, engineers, and so on, Fosridge believes, as I do believe, that they should be taking a strong position in Guyana, and I congratulate them for this. Tankwell, as well, is also making strides in enhancing its logistics capabilities and increasing manufacturing output by building out a new 200,000 square foot warehouse at a cost of approximately $20 million US. Caribbean Cement, a year and a half ago, the worldwide president of CEMEX came to Jamaica, met with Prime Minister Holness and others of us in the ministry, in the cabinet. They're investing $16.5 million US in projects to enhance its production capacity and operational efficiency, and US $39,000 to enhance its human capital development. So it's not just materials and technology, it's also the investment in people. Mothers Enterprises Limited, Food People, has launched a new cafe at the University Hospital of the West Indies, marking a $30 million investment as part of its multi-million-dollar expansion. No, Jamaican. So, in other words, as I said in my opening, that we in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Bunting, Jamaica's business ministry, covers micro way up to trillions of dollars in investments. I'm glad that you've noticed. initiatives taken by the MIC or ministry and portfolio agencies, production input relief. This is something that I've been pushing since I've been at the ministry. But when you hear that a company like Lidford Mining, in the public domain, so I can call it, they imported a super machine from Germany to mine. I can do it twice. To mine limestone of have a seat, man, and be quiet. To mine limestone of medical and industrial quality. They use $2.4 million US to import this machine. It reduces dust. It's really, really very good, and we go and see it. But what we were able to do under the productive input relief, they were able to save approximately $500,000 US in customs duty and charges in bringing in this machine. The productive input relief is there for every manufacturer, whether you're making just some sauces or you're mining at the size of Lidford. It's there for everybody. I want all small companies. If you're making goat cheese, you order the machinery and the material that you may have to use. You get the productive input relief that every manufacturer in Jamaica should use. So, you know, DBJ and Exim Bank will help. So, you know, Mr. President, when you do, if let's say we use a 20... Madam President. The lovely Madam President. When you look at how much relief we gave, and let's say you take an average relief of 20%, and this Senator Crawford can do easily, you do the reciprocal of that 20%, you get 88.5 billion in terms of value that we affected to bring in. Last year. The year before was 109.3 billion. It's a lot of relief that this kind of order and this kind of relief does. So I really want people to use it and expand our productive activities here in Jamaica. So, Mr. President, when we're looking at prices, what's happening in the prices area, the CAC is out there every day looking at prices of food, of materials, even what happens in the financial sector sometimes. We are very much on the ball at the ministry in looking at what happens to cement, because if cement doesn't work, we have a problem. But we also have some good news. The Jamaica Screen Development Initiative, where Minister Clark and myself agreed that we could give $1 billion, they have been very active in the market. They sent out a call for proposals, and they got amazing. They got 406 screen projects applying. When they went through and sifted, they narrowed it down to 269, and they're now in the final phases of a creative technical evaluation, so that we want to encourage the screen processing in Jamaica. It's a growth industry. And so, Mr. President, as we look at the screen industry, the prices of food, prices of cement, we're keeping a track. Next time in my State of the Nation, we'll talk to you extensively about JANA Global accreditation and what it means to have the FDA allowing that. And I will make sure that we looked at, I responded on the radio yesterday. I'm sure you listened to it. Okay, it's right there in the press. And so I will talk about IBEX in the State of the Nation. Madam President, if it pleases you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Hill. Senator Bunting.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Minister, for this statement. I was trying to identify what was the specific topic of the statement, but it's rather wide-ranging. No, prices was about a page and or two, but most of it seemed to be more on foreign direct investment, local direct investment, and one quite extraordinary statement there, which says, and I quote, "Mr. President, Jamaica currently has a booming economy," end quote. Now, he said that, and it's in his text. So I would really like the Minister, Madam President, to give us some specific data to support his statement, because it is certainly inconsistent with the publications by PIOJ, by Statin, and the forecast given by the Bank of Jamaica in its last quarterly briefing. So specifically, the PIOJ released the second quarter growth figures, which show an economy that's stalled. Its preliminary estimate is 0.1%. The preliminary estimate for growth in the quarter ending June 2024 is 0.1%.
Over 100? 0.1 or 100?
0.1%. Right? Less than 1%. 1/10 of 1%. And we know that these figures are often revised downwards.
Yes.
Can be revised upwards as well, but they're often revised downwards. And I want to, for emphasis, to say this did not include the impact of burial, because this would have been up to June 30th. So we hadn't seen the burial impact at that point. But in fact, if you graph the last 8 or so quarters, from 2 years prior, ending in the quarter ending June, you will see a steady downward decline. Since that quarter, and since that publication, the Bank of Jamaica has forecast that there will be negative growth in this quarter,
Less than 0.1.
ending September. They have predicted there will be negative growth, a decline in the economy. And I think there's a fairly strong chance that the second half of this year, the economy will be in recession. Specifically, because the minister spent some time on the construction sector, specifically, construction was down 2.4% in the second quarter before burial, and it was down for the first half, negative 3.1%. Negative growth for the first half, the construction sector. We know from an article a day or two ago, I didn't hear what the minister responded, but we know that one of the large BPO operators has closed 2 of their facilities, and they are forecasting decline.
For renovation?
No, not for renovation, because they're seeing an overall decline. I personally know that another one of the large operators in Jamaica, in a conversation with me a couple of months ago, is predicting that the impact of artificial intelligence and other trends means that we'll likely see, at least in their operation, and they have thousands of employees, you will likely see a 40 to 60% decline in employment over the next 2 to 3 years. And my colleagues here know that I shared this with them months ago. Months ago. Even while the government was still trumpeting a boom.
No, they're not trumpeting, they're ringing the bell.
There are other troubling signs. Troubling signs. NHT housing starts. The first quarter, for which we have data, there was a 56% decline in NHT housing starts. I know my colleague on my left here is very concerned about the implications for average Jamaicans. We saw the results of one of the major hotel operators in Jamaica, Playa. I believe they operate about 5 hotels in Jamaica. They're one of the few publicly listed companies that we can get independent information from. And we saw that both their occupancies and perhaps more importantly, their yields were down for the first half of this year.
I wonder Dara is the second ranked minister.
I believe the travel tax was also significantly down for the first 4 months of the year.
Because arrivals decreased.
Correct. But the minister then turned to a table which showed foreign direct investment coming and was ecstatic that the flows between 2022 and 2023 had increased by 35%.
Wow.
On the face of it, that sounds like a very strong increase from 319 million to 431 million. So I myself was thinking about this and saying, but this seems much lower than the figures we're accustomed to hearing. So I went to the World Bank website and I looked, for example, what did they show for Jamaica a few years ago? So for example, if we go to 2015, which was the last year that the PNP was, full year that the PNP was in government, the figure was 925 million.
How much it is now?
925 million US FDI, and my source is the World Bank Group.
How much Minister Hill said this now?
So from what they took it over, they're now less than half that, but celebrating. They're less than half of what they inherited, but celebrating that at least 2023, though anemic, was better than 2022. And this decline, by the way, started long before COVID or long before burial. So before you go try, blame it on that.
Data don't lie.
The data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie. So, you know, I realized the minister was really scratching for something positive when he celebrated a cafe at UA opening. A cafe at UA opening, the investment value of approximately a 2-bedroom house, a 2-bedroom scheme house. I know that he was struggling. There are many more two-bedroom houses that you could probably announce one by one. That costs 30 million, Minister. But it doesn't, all of these figures, all of these I've quoted from reputable sources, not gaslighting sources, reputable sources, not known to be gaslighters. All of that data from the World Bank Group, from Statin, from PIOJ, from BOJ, all that data contradicts your suggestion of a booming economy. Shows an economy that had stalled by the end of June and is now in decline and quite likely could be in recession by the end of the year. So, Minister, you know, what you have done here is concerning. And as I said, I don't want to poo-poo 30 million investment in a coffee shop is great for a small or medium-sized business. Lidford Mining, I mean, excellent operation, first class. Don't want to take anything away from them. But just to put in perspective, a 2.4 million US investment is approximately the price of a Cat D11 bulldozer. So in the context of our bauxite, alumina, and mining industry more generally, what you're talking about there is an addition of a D11 bulldozer to the stock. So, so you know, let us not bury our head in the sand, Minister. The economy is facing tough times. It's facing lots of challenges. Commend all the private sector companies for their initiatives, whether large private sector, medium or small private sector. But let us not confuse those who are trying to plan that we are in the middle of an economic boom. We are not. It's very, very serious times. If we go back, non-performing loans in the banking sector are the highest they have been since 2017. That is a broad indicator of the state of companies and individuals in this economy. They're struggling to meet their debt obligations. The fact that the Bank of Jamaica, the BOJ 30-day CD rate, has dropped by 320 basis points over the last couple months. 3.2% approximately. That tells us that the Bank of Jamaica realizes that the economy is going into a tailspin. It's diving, it's not growing. They need to dramatically provide some kind of stimulus because the tightening, the fiscal tightening is helping to bring the economy to a halt. And I'm not blaming Bank of Jamaica. Bank of Jamaica has their independent mandate. Their mandate is to contain inflation. Their mandate is for financial sector stability. But your mandate, Minister, is for growth. And you have to start from the position of truth. And the truth is, we have been in a decline for the last 8 quarters in terms of growth. It stalled at the end of June. It is negative in this quarter. And if we're not careful, we'll be in a recession by the end of the year.
Just wait now, 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute, please. Thank you, Senator Bunting. Senator Brown, you have something to say?
Yeah. I have a question for the Minister rising from his statement. Minister, his statement is about prices. And I have seen in the country that the price, for example, of a single sweet pepper is being, single sweet pepper is being sold for over $8 I'm seeing in front of me a picture of a sweet pepper, which is 0.085 kg, being sold for $347. I've seen the price of cabbage being sold for significant sums in the market, especially in supermarkets. 2 weeks ago, on the way out to Portland, a friend of mine stopped in Anatomy Market and got sweet pepper for $500 a pound. Is it the view of your ministry and the relevant consumer agencies that these high prices of vegetable in the supermarket constitute price gouging? And if this is so, what is your ministry doing to bring down the prices of these items on the poor consumers of this country?
You know, can I just add something to that? Although Senator Morris said I mustn't contribute. You know, I was at Maypen Court one day last week and went over to the market and said to a young man that had a cart, I have $3,000 to spend. I literally could not carry the amount of stuff that I bought for the $3,000. No. No. I was able to. I'm supporting what Senator Brown said, you know, because I got. And when I finished, he's asked me if I didn't want any yam because he had the white yam from Manchester. I said I don't want any yam, and he gave me a piece of yam almost the size of my hand, and he didn't know it was me. The woman said, "You don't know who that." Anyway, I'm supporting what Senator Brown said, but my attitude is this, you know. If I go to the market and see something, a sweet pepper for $800, I'm not buying it. I will go to the market when I'm in in Clarendon, Maypen Market. So thank you very much to the young man who was so nice to me in the Maypen Market. Senator Hill. His cart is right to the front of the market after they leave the courthouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, there is a difference between market forces raising prices and price gouging. The Consumer Affairs Commission is very clear that there is that incident difference. When there's a scarcity in any product, whether it's goat's meat or goat cheese, and there's a strong demand for it, prices will go up. When prices go up for, let's say, sweet pepper, more people tend to plant more sweet peppers, and in a relatively short period of time, which is a couple of weeks, or if it's Callaloo, even shorter, the supply will come in to meet the demand that has risen. And the demand clearly existed. Beryl, as I said, denuded the supply, wiped out some of it in some places, so there will be scarcity, and prices go up for a short period of time. That's not price gouging. Price gouging tends to happen when you have products, you hold it, lock it out, hide it, and then you make sure the price go out. You squeeze supply out of the market purposely, and then you release gently at a much higher prices. What we do to check price gouging is we go inside warehouses. We look at invoices. We check what happened the months before. Remember I said in my statement, we have the data from April and May to check as a base as to what would happen post-burial. So that's what we have seen, Senator Brown. I would contend that that's natural market forces that will happen when a major climatic event such as burial would happen, it would take out supply. In a short period of time, it tends to come back. Price gouging is not that. Price gouging is when you purposely plan to hold your supply and you hold it, make the prices go up. You have the old supply that you bought at the old prices. Your margin goes up. You release it, and then you're in the price gouging business. And Mr. President, I just want to mention that the first company I started off to talk about a big investment and looking at growth was 11.63 billion by Wisynco. That's not a two-bedroom house. I went to Mothers to show, as I said in my opening, that we look at the full spectrum from big companies to micro. So even micro was expanding. That was the point. To be disingenuous to show that and only talk about the small person and forget the 11.3 that I mentioned is not in the game. That's not what we're doing. On the issue of the projections by the Bank of Jamaica, I respect the projections of the Bank of Jamaica. But I also know that there were 47 contractors that were engaged to repair hundreds of schools. Local contractors, hundreds of millions of dollars that have gone into the economy since the Bank of Jamaica may have made their assessment based on the June figures. So we see money going into the economy. We see Wisynco spending. We see others spending. And yes, we hear about the BPO IBEX. I mentioned it yesterday in a press release to go in. And therefore, I'm saying to you, when you're looking at numbers, show the balance that I mentioned. And in the case of Senator Brown's query, I do not see that as price gouging, and the CAC would catch it given the metrics that they use to do that.
A follow-up question?
Another question from the statement.
But no, if you have more than one, just ask them now, please, so we can move on.
Well, I'm asking this one now.
Okay.
Thank you. Minister, in your statement, the following is stated. Mr. President, on July 2nd, 2024, and I pause to point out, that's the day before burial. So we're talking now about what happened before burial. So the statement goes, Mr. President, on July 2nd, 2024, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce issued an order to support the fair sale of goods to protect Jamaican citizens from the unwarranted price increases of in-demand items after the passage of Hurricane Gilbert. The statement continues. Since then, the Consumer Affairs Commission, an agency of the ministry, has been active in the field, gathering information to ensure that there's fair pricing of goods. Are you saying to me, Minister, that these prices in the supermarket doesn't represent price gouging and they are fair price of goods to the suffering consumers of this country? If you think so, I have a bridge to sell you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. I'm not going to ask you to respond to that. Announcements? But no, could you please ask the questions and then the minister respond to them rather than question? Go ahead. Sorry, what is that, Senator Bunting? No, I know, but what I'm saying is that if everybody asks a question, he makes a note of it and then make one response rather than jumping. No, so we usually do it.
No.
Thank you, Mr.
That side was so long ago, I have no memory of it.
You will
Senator,
soon.
no, I don't, no, don't you think that? I recognize you from a seat other than your own, Senator Crawford. Nice to see you, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hear you'll soon be reminded of how over here feels, but we will, but we will take that. Minister, you mentioned the use of permits and suggested that it may be, well, let me not say you suggested, but it may be that many are utilizing the permits in such a way, almost to maintain prolonged scarcity, even though the permits are granted. Is there a plan to give time limits, shorter time limits for permits granted, so that persons don't seek to benefit, let us say, for example, for tomatoes, from the relative scarcity by trickling in their imports more so than immediately using the permit? Is there a plan to shorten the lifespan of the permit?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. Minister, as they say, answer that. As they say in court, answer that.
Mr. President, thank you. Senator Crawford, the particular matter, since you mentioned tomatoes, would apply to my colleague, Minister Floyd Green, so I would ask an answer for him. But I did, no, man. I don't make no mistake here. But I will answer the matter that I did address, and that was the issue of the cement, for instance. We say, hey, this is the amount you're going to be able to import this year, but we don't give it at one time. We give it periodically, so we can always check. My technical people go back in and go back to the companies. How much have you imported, that kind of stuff, because sometimes they want to get an additional quota for whatever reason they use it for. But we make sure that what you have had, you will use, and in this instance, where you may not have used it, don't worry, come back for any, because you're not going to get it. And yes, we don't give it all at once for a year. We give it periodically so we can check it.
Thank you very much, Minister. Announcements?
Laid on the table of the Senate are the following: annual reports and audited financial statements of the Rural Water Supply Limited for the financial years 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 2021. Annual report of the National Land Agency for the financial year 2010 to 2011. Annual report of the land divestment for the financial year 2021 to 2022. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Jamaica Mortgage Bank for the financial year 2021 to 2022. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Culture, Health, Arts, Sports, and Education Chase Fund for the financial year 2022 to 2023. Annual report of the Tourism Development Company Limited for the financial year 2021 to 2022. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Development Bank of Jamaica Limited for the financial year 2021 to 2022. The Ministry of Education and Youth Progress Report, Transforming Education for National Development. Annual report of the Southeast Regional Health Authority for the financial years 2016 to 2017, 2017 to 2018, and 2018 to 2019, and their respective ministry papers numbered 40 of 2024, 41 of 2024, and 42 of 2024, respectively. Annual report of the Harmonization Limited Group for the financial years 2015 to 2016, 2016 to 2017, 2017 to 2018, and 2018 to 2019, and their respective ministry paper numbered 43 of 2024. Annual report of the Harmonization Limited Group for the financial years 2019 to 2020, 2020 to 2021, and 2021 to 2022, and their related ministry paper numbered 44 of 2024. Annual report of the Forestry Department for the financial year 2014 to 2015, and its related ministry paper numbered 45 of 2024. Ministry papers entitled Cabinet Agenda Issues numbered 46 to 49 of 2024, dated April 8, 15, 22, and 29 of 2023, respectively. Ministry paper numbered 50 to 53 of 2024, dated May 6, 13, 20, and 27 of 2023, respectively. Ministry paper numbered 54 to 56 of 2024, dated November 6, 13, and 20 of 2023, respectively. Ministry paper numbered 57 to 59 of 2024, dated December 4, 11, and 18 of 2023, respectively. Ministry paper numbered 60 to 62 of 2024, dated January 15, 22, and 29 of 2024, respectively. Ministry paper numbered 63 to 64 of 2024, dated February 5 and 12, 2024, respectively. Ministry paper numbered 65 to 68 of 2024, dated March 4, 11, 18, and 25 of 2024, respectively. Ministry paper numbered 69 of 2024, entitled Subscription to Available Shares under the Inter-American Investment Corporation Second General Capital Increase. Annual report of the Financial Services Commission for the year 2021 to 2022, and its related ministry paper numbered 70 of 2024. Annual report of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica for the year 2020 to 2021, and its related ministry paper numbered 71 of 2024. Annual report of the Planning Institute of Jamaica for the year ended December 31, 2022, and its related ministry paper numbered 72 of 2024. Annual reports of the Jamaica Customs Agency for the years 2015 to 2016, 2016 to 2017, and 2017 to 2018, and their related ministry paper numbered 73 of 2024. The Auditor General's Department Certified Appropriation Accounts, Head 28058 Recurrent for the Judiciary, Head 2805 for the year 2019-2020, and Head 28058 Recurrent for the Judiciary for the year 2020 to 2021, Head 15000 Recurrent for the Office of the Prime Minister for the year 2021 to 2022. Integrity Commission's investigation report into the statutory declarations submitted by the Most Honorable Mr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister for the years 2019 to 2022, in respect of concerns that he owns assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings and that he made false statements in his statutory declarations by way of omissions contrary to the law and its indicative ruling. Integrity Commission's addendum to report of investigation conducted into the statutory declarations submitted by the Most Honorable Mr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister for the years 2019 to 2022, in respect of concerns that he owns assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings and that he made false statements in his statutory declarations by way of omissions contrary to the law. Integrity Commission's special report in the matter of an investigation report of an investigation conducted into the statutory declarations submitted by the Most Honorable Mr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister for the years 2019 to 2022 in respect of concerns that he owns assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings and that he made false statements in his statutory declarations by way of omissions contrary to the law. Integrity Commission's report of investigation concerning allegations of irregularities and conflict of interest in relation to the operations of the Carl Ratchford Staff College Department of Correctional Services. Integrity Commission's report of investigation concerning allegations of impropriety and irregularity in the utilization of the limited tender and direct contracting procurement methodologies in the award of contracts to Nubian One Construction Limited for the period January 2016 to August 2019. The Jamaica Gazette Supplement Proclamations, Rules and Regulations 1461, Volume 147, dated Wednesday, August 14, 2024, number 234, enclosing the Emergency Powers Parish of Clarendon Regulations 2024 under the Emergency Powers Act. The Jamaica Gazette Supplement Proclamations, Rules and Regulations 1867, Volume 147, dated Friday, September 13, 2024, number 297, enclosing the Emergency Powers Parish of Clarendon number 2 Regulations of 2024 under the Emergency Powers Act. Finally, the Jamaica Gazette Supplements, Proclamations, Rules and Regulations 1457, Volume 147, dated Wednesday, August 14, 2024, number 233, enclosing the Constitution of Jamaica. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator Brown?
Thank you, President. There are 3 documents that have been tabled today. 3 dealing with in respect of concerns that the Most Honorable Prime Minister owns assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings. I am requesting hard copies of those 3 documents. I know it was tabled elsewhere. I've tried to open them on my laptop, and even if they're not available at this moment, you go up on TV or talk.
Senator Brown, what I'm going to ask that you do, I will speak to the clerk about it and make effort for you to
Thank
get
you, I appreciate it.
it. If not, I will.
This will be the first report on the illicit aid. So important that I have a hard copy.
Thank you very much. Bills brought from the... I never heard, you know. Let's go. Bills brought from the Honorable House of Representatives. Bills brought from the Honorable House of Representatives. Petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally, questions and answers to questions.
Mr. President, I will ask the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce the question standing in my name. You have a copy of the answer?
Is he aware?
And I
1
believe-
minute, 1 minute, 1 minute.
And I believe he's supposed to give me a hard copy answer as well.
He's supposed to give you a hard drive, you said?
No, a copy, a physical copy of the
Okay,
answer.
okay. Minister Hill?
Mr. President, the time being 12:12 p.m., I now move that the Senate be allowed to receive and answer questions at this time.
Members would have heard the question. It relates to a particular standing orders that says that if questions are being asked and answered after, I think it's 11:40, we require. Those in favor? Yeah. Against? Minister Hill, you have answers?
Standing in a seat or sitting? As far as I know, yes. Madam Clerk, answers were circulated?
I have not received that. No, but I don't want the minister to answer until I have a copy.
So, but I said you're trying to work it out. You don't want him to
Well,
answer.
He must take a seat. Let us move forward.
But just wait,
suspension
just
of the
relax,
standing
man.
orders and take
In
it when
fact,
it's ready.
Mr. President,
I will wait 9 months to get the
I will
answers,
yield
and
to
you're
my-
not complying with standing orders.
good, we'll have a long time. I'll yield to my colleague, Minister Morris Dixon, who has some answers to give as well.
Mr. Bunting, it is not normal, I'm informed, to get the answers in writing. Senator Morris, you don't have to put your mouth in this. Just wait a little bit. What we are going to do is, Minister Hill, Minister Hill, hear what I'm going to say. Who is answering the questions? You? Minister Morris, you answering the questions? And you don't have it in printed form as yet. No, man, just wait. Mr. Bunting does not want you to answer the questions unless you have it printed. So just wait. So the same thing apply, no problem. So we will get them. Look, hello, we'll get them printed. We'll get them printed. The members don't want questions answered unless they are in printed form. No problem. Minister, anything else? So you're going to wait?
Yes, till next week.
That's not my issue. I don't care. So get what you need to the Madam Clerk. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business. Yes,
Thank
Senator
you, Mr.
Fraser
President. There are some questions in my name. There were some questions in my name. I want to inquire, one, if they're ready, and secondly, if they're not ready, consider that they were asked of former minister. Sonoda.
Okay.
If you can provide some guidance
I
as to how
know,
we
I know.
treated
We're trying to get some guidance in relation to those questions since the minister is no longer here. But we'll respond to it in due course. Okay? Not necessarily, Senator Brown, because it was addressed to a particular ministry, but we're trying to work it out. Bill, where am I? Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business. I take it there is none. Minister.
Senator Calvin Gale would like to. Yes.
A motion for the adjournment.
Yes.
And Senator Gale has something to say on the motion. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's right, Mr.
Perfect.
President.
Thank you very much. Senator Gale.
Thank you, President.
Engage your microphone again, please. Senator Brown. Yes, he is but late. Because he is but late. I never remember.
Mr. President, on the point of adjournment, I wish to use this opportunity to, as we recognize this month, to commemorate and celebrate as Senior Citizens Month. And we do so under the theme, promoting healthy, active, and productive aging. President, for 47 years, our nation has set aside this time to reflect on the immense value of our senior citizens and to honor their contributions to the development of Jamaica. They are the very foundation on which this country was built, and it is our duty
to ensure that their efforts are recognized, valued, and protected. President, the National Policy for Senior Citizens, first established in 1977 and revised in 2021, reflects the government's unwavering commitment to ensuring the full inclusion of our senior citizens in every aspect of nation building. This policy serves as the bedrock for guiding programs designed to meet the needs of individuals aged 60 or 65 and older. And the vision behind this policy is clear, Mr. President. We envision a future where senior citizens are able to live and participate fully in a society that guarantees their rights, promotes their responsibilities, recognizes their capabilities and contribution, and facilitates their full enjoyment of a life marked by fulfillment, health, and security. Mr. President, we must always recognize our senior citizens. President, it is often said that retirement is a time for rest and relaxation. But this, in my mind, is in fact a myth. In reality, many of our senior citizens remain active contributors with their families and indeed our country's economy. Just imagine, sir, for example, if our farmers or even our judges all retired at 60 or 65, we would face difficulties finding enough food to feed the nation. And many of our courts would have to suspend their operations. The reality is that aging of our population presents not only social issues, such as the protection of care of the elderly, but also equally important issue of ensuring the productive involvement of the elderly in our society. Our senior citizens are a vital resource. As a society, we must harness their skills, knowledge, and experience while continuing to address their social and economic security needs. Mr. President, just recently, the Hard Trust NSTA College of Innovation and Technology provided international certification in digital literacy for 37 senior citizens. Incidentally, all female. That tells you something. This was a 10 weeks training in the first of 3 levels under the Senior Digital Literacy Program. And this was in collaboration between the National Senior Citizens Council and the Hard Trust NSTA. Mr. President, I want to use this opportunity to commend the Hard Trust NSTA and the Ministry of Labor for this kind of initiative. What some would have said is that given that this new digital literacy awareness, they have the opportunity to conduct transactions digitally. And some of them even said they felt a little bit of freedom using the ATM space. Mr. President, these are things that we must encourage for our senior citizens. In this regard, a continuous review of policies is critical, especially when it comes to income security. While we are committed to safeguarding our senior citizens, we must recognize that there is more work to be done. And this includes promoting and encouraging the expansion of private pension and retirement schemes in the workplace. This is essentially critical. We have moved into an era where pension schemes and retirement schemes seems to be something of the past. And in order to ensure the security of livelihood of these senior citizens, we encourage the promotion of pension schemes in the workplace. President, these schemes provide an essential supplement to the national insurance scheme and can significantly ease the financial burden on retirement. Additionally, we must also ensure that health insurance support is readily available after retirement, enabling our senior citizens to access care they need without financial strain at the point when it's much needed. President, I recall being a youngster in the Union at a Jamaica Public Service Retirement Seminar in 1997, when the most Honorable Hugh Lawson Shearer once said, to stop health insurance at a time of retirement, the time of great need, is very harsh. And that's a fact. Senior citizens require that health support up on and beyond retirement, and it's a serious protection that we must provide for our senior citizens. So, as we strive to ensure the sustainability of the national insurance scheme, we recognize the challenges that come with an aging population. And to ensure its future of the NIS, we must explore innovative solutions, such as adjusting the contribution rates or revisiting retirement age thresholds to ensure that contributions continue for a longer period. Mr. President, there are people who reach that retirement age who still want to fulfill the need of continuous employment. We must also, sir, make sure that there are more contributors to the scheme. So, most importantly, as soon as workers join the labor force, they must be able to be contributing to the scheme to ensure its sustainability. And importantly, we must continue to invest strategically in the NIS fund, ensuring its long-term viability so that it can support future generations of retirees. President, beyond financial security, we must also equip those approaching retirement with the tools they need to transition into this new phase of life. Learning new skills before and even during retirement can provide opportunities for continued economic activity and personal fulfillment. So whether it's embracing new technology or pursuing a second career, lifelong learning can help retirees remain productive and engaged. So, sir, as we continue to celebrate Senior Citizens Month, let us remember that our senior citizens are not just individuals to be cared for, but a valuable resource to be nurtured and engaged. Together, we must work to ensure their financial security, provide them with the health support they need, and empower them to remain active participants of our nation's progress. And remember, we too shall get there. May it please you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. 1 minute, Senator Morris. 1 minute, Senator Morris. Thank you, Senator Gale. Senator Bunting, in fairness, it is my custom to notify you some time ahead of such a motion so that your member can prepare to respond. If it is that Senator Morris wishes to respond next week or the next meeting, I would not have an issue because Senator Gale's contribution was somewhat detailed.
President, I feel certain that my colleague is more than capable of responding in a very comprehensive way.
Thank you very much.
Notwithstanding the short notice.
Senator Morris, thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Gale. Thank you, Senator Morris.
To stand to support the motion on the motion brought by Senator Gale. And just to say, Mr. President, I spent 7 years in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security with specific responsibility for the Social Security portfolio between 2001 and 2005. So it is a portfolio and a subject that I'm very much familiar with, since it was during that time that we had the celebrations for the Senior Citizens Week, and I was actively involved. And I take note of some of the things that was articulated by Senator Gale, because the National Council for Senior Citizens was first established in 1976, and the first policy, senior citizens policy, was in fact established in 1995. And then there was the revised senior citizens policy that came about, I think, in 2022. And Mr. President, there is no doubt that we have to put in place measures to protect our senior citizens, because at some point in time in our lives, barring death, we will get there. And we have to create that environment that will ensure that our senior citizens live in comfort, in style, and preserve their dignity. And so we have to make sure that our healthcare facilities are in order so that our senior citizens don't have to end up going to public health facilities where they have to spend 5, 6 hours waiting for a doctor or a nurse to administer treatment. We have to make sure that our senior citizens are able to afford their medication, and that is why we established the Drugs for the Elderly program in 1995 as well, and also the National Health Fund to provide those senior citizens with further support in terms of their health care. We also, Mr. President, I do support the arguments of Senator Gale in terms of the national insurance scheme, because, let's face facts, the national insurance scheme was a well-intended and a very good scheme that was established in 1966. No doubt about it. But also, I have to commend former Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller for driving the investment in the National Investment Fund in the early 1990s, which started out with $1.5 billion, and now it has grown into a mighty oak tree with over $100 billion. And that fund is providing support to the national insurance scheme to make sure that our senior citizens can get their pension. And one thing, Senator Gale, that we have to do is to help change the thought that exists in the psyche of Jamaicans, that the NIS is a tax. And we have to make sure that whatever you want to call it, right? But we have to make sure that our senior citizens, our citizens rather, make their contribution to the NIS, because it is going to redound to their benefit in the long run. You know, a couple years ago, I was a part of the Fisherman's Regatta in Port Maria, St. Mary. And I was saying to the fishermen folks that we need to make sure that you all get registered for the NIS and you make your contribution, because it is going to redound to your benefit. And we made arrangement for the NIS team and the NHT teams to go in and interact with them for them to get registered and start making their self-employment contribution. And none of them took up the offer because people believe that this is a tax. We have to change that and make sure that individuals contribute to the scheme and indicate to them that it will redound to their benefit upon retirement. You know, Mr. President, I must say that I think it was in 2022, I tabled a resolution in this honorable chamber calling for, among other things, the establishment of legislation to protect the rights of our senior citizens. That debate started, and it was adjourned for continuation. That continuation has not come about as yet. And I am looking forward to the completion of that debate. And I am also looking forward that when we complete the debate, that the government will support the establishment of legislation to protect our senior citizens. Because I've heard some argument in the debate then which suggested that the government was not in for supporting legislation to protect our senior citizens. And I am looking forward to the completion of the debate because I want to see what is going to be the final recommendation from the Senate, because we have to make sure that not just policy is in place, but a legislative framework to protect one of the most vulnerable groups within our society, our senior citizens. I support the motion and I support the call for measures to put in place for our senior citizens. May it please you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Morris. Senator Allen, you are still with us?
Yes, I am.
Senator Crawford just told me why you are not here today, you know. And also that he's heading down your side.
And I look forward to welcoming him.
Well, I hope it rain out. I hope what you are waiting for.
Not even rain.
I hope that's what you are planning down there, rain out, yeah?
The blessing.
Senator, Leader, Senator Hill. Anyway, good luck, Senator Allen. All the best.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Mr. President, is not contemplated that we'll do further business today, so I ask that the Senate adjourns for a date to be fixed.
Thank you, Senator Hill. Just before, you know that you have Senator Bunting. There are 2 members of your team presently here. 3, in fact, who sit on the Standing Orders Committee. Senator Scott Motley is not here, but you have 2 members here. So I'm going to ask both of them to sit with you and go through Standing Order 15 as it relates to the question of questions. It's something that we have looked at. And for those members who are not on the committee, when a question is asked, if you actually want a verbal response, you need to put an asterisk by the question. It says so in the Standing Orders, you know. But we have a practice. No, I'm not asking for a response. Okay, go on.
It says if the norm, if you have not indicated by asterisk, is that you would receive a response in writing. And
what has developed here is that you ask a question, you get the verbal.
But the convention that has developed is when you indicate by asterisk that you would like an oral answer, it does not mean you don't want a written answer.
Yeah, we know that.
The convention has been that you get both.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to work with the convention modified by the convention. We're going to work with the Standing Order modified by the convention.
Thank you.
So it is not proposed to do any other business. The question is that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against? No, I know also, just before I rise, that there is the facility downstairs is being reworked. I'm going to suggest that you go and have a look at it It's very nicely done, and they are moving ahead rapidly. In the meantime, lunch is being served next door. Correct, Madam Clerk? At what? What you call the building there? Eh? The JBA lunch. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask members to join us over there for lunch. I know that there has been an aversion to going downstairs to the old facility, but you could have lunch with us if you desire next door. Thank you very much. This Honorable Senate now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Small businesses like mine continue to serve the needs of people.
We all play a part in keeping the wheels of our economy turning, and we do so responsibly.
We are building forward
together. Love might just be a four-letter word, but it means a lot to persons who handle it with care. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy, and it does not boast. Love is caring. Love is sharing. Love is something that makes you feel happy. Love is both a feeling and an emotion. I might not love you as I should, but I love you more than any other human could.
It's Friday, September 27. In the headlines in local news, Prime Minister Holness says Jamaica poised to meet UN Sustainable Development Goals, and EOJ finalizing preparations for Northeast St. Anne by-election. Regionally, region experts meet to bolster disaster management and response. And in sports, ISA slaps penalties on Dinthill technical players after the Costa Cup brawl. This is the Weekend News on PBC Jamaica. I'm Brittany Clark. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says Jamaica is poised to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, set out by the United Nations. He made the assertion while speaking at the contract signing and groundbreaking for Spice Grove Infrastructure Works project in Aracabessa, St. Mary this week.
Economic shock says as natural disasters and the COVID-19 pandemic are some of the reasons behind Jamaica's delay in achieving its own Vision 2030, the man at the helm, however, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says, of all the countries across the Caribbean, the island is most likely to hit the SDGs.
For most countries, they are only achieving 16% of the targets that they had set under the SDGs. 16%. And that's really a challenge. Jamaica is doing much better than the rest of the world. And in fact, Jamaica is the leading country in the Caribbean for meeting the SDG goals based upon our National Development Plan. In fact, we're about 60% of the way there.
Mr. Holness is confident that with additional efforts and renewed commitment, Jamaica can achieve developed country status.
There have been setbacks, no doubt. Sometimes the national conversation forgot that the world was struck by COVID. And for 2 years, there was barely any investment that could be made in social development. We had a massive supply side shock where supply chains were disrupted, growth fell off, and inflation went up. So all of those things had an impact on the pace at which we fulfill the Sustainable Development Goals. But the government is recommitting itself to redoubling its effort so that Jamaica achieves the developed country status. Now, for all the people who live here in Spicy Grove, for you, you are
The 17 SDGs are part of the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and coincide with aspects of Jamaica's first long-term strategic development plan, Vision 2030. Among the goals are the eradication of poverty, quality education, and economic growth. Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I am Danita Rodney.
Meanwhile, residents of Spice Grove are set to benefit from multi-million-dollar infrastructure project. The project aims to build out road networks, infrastructure, and formalize land tenure for residents. Member of Parliament for Western St. Mary, Robert Montague, says the project was long in coming and it will bring changes to the community.
After today, Prime Minister, we're not calling here Spicy Grove, so. We're going to call it the Hills of Spicy Grove. We have to not only improve the physical environment, we must also begin to let people know that a new community is going to emerge. And those that will get their title, and as we have discussed with the residents, that some people are going to have to move them fence and some people are going to have to shift up a little bit and all of that. But we have dealt with it and we're moving forward.
The Electoral Office of Jamaica, EOJ, is wrapping up its final preparations for the Northeast St. Anne by-election scheduled for Monday, September 30. In a statement on Thursday, the EOJ says polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and preliminary vote counting will begin immediately after the polls close at each location. Election Day workers have already completed their training and will be stationed at 146 polling stations across 27 voting locations in the constituency. The EOJ reminds that only registered voters within Northeast St. Anne are eligible to participate. Additionally, voters are entitled to 3 hours off from work to cast their ballots, which is separate from their lunch break. This, they say, does not apply to work starting at 10 a.m. or later, or finishing work at 2 p.m. or earlier. September is Senior Citizens Month. It's when we intensify public education about what to expect as you get older and how members of your extended family play a key role in the experience. Program Development Officer at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Kamisha Shaw Kelly, has been working with the elderly for years. Simone Absalom Gale got some guidance from her in the latest episode of PBCJ's Blueprint to Health.
Let's discuss some of the nutritional tips for persons who are getting up in age. What should we bear in mind? What should we be eating? Well, you did mention we should give up drinking so much alcohol.
Yes.
I don't know how that's going to go over to a lot of Jamaicans. But yes, when you're getting up in age, it is advised that you drink a lot less alcohol. But what else can you tell us in terms of nutrition, Doc?
So you'd want to maintain a regular eating schedule. Because I find for some older persons, they're not eating on time, and that tends to be an issue. So having a schedule helps, so the body would be programmed somewhat, or the mind, or you have a plan stating, okay, I'll have breakfast at this point, I'll have my snack at this point, I'll have my lunch at this point. So some older adults may need to have this focused effort to eat regularly. Eating with others is another. So you socialize with your family member. That's when they can discuss in terms of connecting with others while eat. So a shared meal can be especially uplifting if persons are experiencing depression, loneliness, or lack of interest in activities.
And you can also get information from them as well, like what happened during the day, if they had a fall. It is when you socialize with them that you get to hear some of the issues they're having. Elderly people tend to keep some of the issues that they're having, some of the symptoms that they're facing, they keep it to themselves.
Yes.
And then it's when you have the conversation and they'll say, okay, you know, the knee's hurting, or, you know, I had a fall today. When you ask them, what happened today, grandma? Or what's happened today, mommy or daddy? They probably want to keep it from you, or they probably think that you don't care, or they think that, okay, young people are living their lives. I don't want to burden them. They didn't ask.
That's one of the things you commonly hear. I don't want to bother or burden them. Yes, so as a result, they didn't say.
So the dinner table, I think, would be a good place to get some of these information from them.
Yes. Another thing, too, is you want to practice food safety habits. So as to prevent foodborne illness, look at the expiration dates. And you also want to take special care to wash your hands and the surfaces often, and ensure that the foods or the meat or the eggs, those are properly cooked. And refrigerate the leftovers promptly. Also, get into the habit of having the fibers, so add fibers to the meal. So you want to add like your whole grains, raw fruits and vegetables, very important. Also to ensure that you're eating healthy fats. We know now is avocado season, so increased in terms of the intake of the avocados. And reduce, as I stated earlier, the salt consumption, especially for those persons who are hypertensive. So persons can season their food with garlic, the herbs instead. It still gives the flavor.
Yes.
And not so much high in the salt intake, and reduce the salt intake. Ensure that persons stay hydrated. That's another thing. And when I speak to our older persons, they sometimes forget to drink their water. So it's very important, especially since the time is so hot now, to stay hydrated and maximize in terms of the vitamin D intake. So increase in terms of the exposure sometime in the earlier part of the mornings, can go out to get some sunlight.
Or as my grandaunt, she sweeps the yard in the morning.
Okay,
so that's her activity.
Right, activities like that. And remember to speak to the healthcare provider. They will give further advice.
All right, those are some good tips, Doc. All right, so we spoke about what they can do. But how can family members get involved in ensuring that the members of their household who fall into the age gap of senior citizens continue to live long and healthy lives?
So it's very important that in whatever is done, that our older population continue to feel independent. So you want to ensure that they are active. You would support in whatever way possible. You can provide support. For family members also, you want to reassure that you love and care for your older, whether it be your mother, your grandmother, aunt, grandaunt. Love irrespective of the surprises. They might sometimes give some harsh words, they might be aggressive sometimes, depending on the illness that they might have. Don't be afraid, as I would say to the caregivers, to ask for help. There's something we call caregiver's burden. You want to ensure as a caregiver too that you take care of yourself, because how can you provide support if you yourself, fall ill? And remember that your health and well-being is equally as important as the care recipient.
You can catch the full episode this Sunday on PBCJ at 4:30 p.m. In the business report, Victoria Mutual Group subsidiary BCIC will acquire JN General Insurance. In a joint press release on Wednesday, the company said it is, quote, in the advanced stages of an agreement concerning the transfer of ownership, unquote. According to the joint release, quote, business continues as normal at all J&GI locations and clients will be unaffected by the pending change. J&GI remains financially strong with solid reinsurance agreements and the company is able to meet its financial obligations, unquote. Jamaica Business Development Corporation, JBDC, is encouraging micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, across Jamaica to participate in the upcoming Biz Zone, scheduled for Tuesday, October 1. The virtual event starts at 10 a.m. and will facilitate a discussion on the topic, How Digital Technologies Can Boost Competitiveness, led by CEO of Get Paid Suite, Leighton Campbell, who won the 2019 JBDC Bossman of the Year. The session will be facilitated on Zoom. For more information on the event, interested individuals should visit the JBDC website or contact the agency. We now have the stock updates from Denise Williams.
During trading for the period September 26, 2024, the following companies represent the top 3 most active stocks that investors bought and sold on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Alternative energy provider Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with 6,475,240 units represent 19.23% of the total market volume in terms of sales. Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with 4,797,278 units represents 14.25% of the total volume in terms of sales. One-on-One Educational Services Limited with 4,326,446 units represents 12.85% of the total market volume in terms of sales. Moving from the money moves of investors, executives, and companies on the stock market, we turn to the Forex market. On September 26, 2024, the Bank of Jamaica reported that US $51.29 million was bought from Forex traders, while US $48.90 million was sold to Forex traders. Buying directly from the Bank of Jamaica, foreign currency traders sold the US dollar for $158.68 and bought the US dollar for $157.17. The difference between the buy and sell rate was $1.51, which represents a profit for Forex traders for every US dollar traded. Canadian Forex traders earned a trading profit of $4.88 from transactions with the Bank of Jamaica. The Canadian dollar was sold for $118.38 and bought for $113.50. For traders looking at the British pound, they pocketed a profit of $1.72, selling it for $212.43 and buying it for $210.71. For the credit report tip of the day, your monthly credit score is sent to the banks and other financial institutions by the Credit Bureau. Paying bills on time only accounts for 35% of your credit score, but it's not the only way to strengthen your financial standing. Here are 2 other suggestions. You could negotiate lower interest rates. Lower interest rates allow you to pay off balances faster, reducing debt and improving your credit score over time. Additionally, you can consolidate debt with personal loans. Consolidating high-interest credit card debt into a personal loan with fixed rate can reduce interest payments and improve your credit score. And with that, we wrap up today's business report.
In regional news, in a bid to enhance regional resilience, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, is prioritizing swift recovery strategies for crises. This vital focus was underscored at the 15th meeting of CDEMA's Civil Society Sector Subcommittee. TTT News' Terry Ann Brown Campbell has these updates.
Regional disaster organizations and members of civil society are working to include a wider group of stakeholders in their comprehensive disaster management strategy. Charge d'Affaires of Canada's High Commission to Trinidad and Tobago, Patricia Fortier, notes with climate change, the unexpected is becoming more of a regular feature.
In any case where there's disaster, there is no choice but to rely on one another. So, we must put in place systems, skills, and plans to prepare for these events.
Deputy Executive Director of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig, endorses Ms. Fortier's view.
We are undoubtedly witnessing unprecedented challenges and changes in the weather pattern. As you would have just recognized, that Beryl was one of the earliest storm ever experienced within our Atlantic. And we recognize too the severe and catastrophic impacts that these events have on our communities.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive Officer of the Office of Disaster Preparedness Management, retired Major General Rodney Smart, highlighted the work which is being done at the local level.
Trinidad and Tobago has taken deliberate steps to integrate civil society actors into our